I knew an investor who owned 6 properties. He'd done well, so he finally bought the boat he'd always wanted. Then interest rates, they skyrocketed, and his mortgage repayments jumped by thousands almost overnight. In the end, he couldn't keep up and he had to sell the boat that he'd worked so hard for so many years to buy. And that's why you really need to know where interest rates could go, because they don't just change your mortgage, they change your life too. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm Ed, an economist and property investor at Opes. And in today's video, you're going to learn where interest rates could go in 2026 and beyond, and the one thing coming next year that most Kiwi borrowers haven't even thought about. Because interest rate rises really do impact your life. Maybe you've got to stop eating out once a week because that extra $80 has to go to your higher interest rate and your mortgage payment. Maybe it means cancelling that Europe trip that you've saved up for over the last 2 years because your mortgage is getting that much more expensive. But what makes interest rates go up or down? Well, it all starts with the official cash rate, the OCR, and this is set by our Reserve Bank. Now, if the OCR goes up, your mortgage interest rate will go up too. If the OCR comes down, your mortgage is about to get cheaper. But what makes the Reserve Bank either hike or cut their interest rates? Well, their only goal is to keep the cost of living under control, and that's what we call inflation, which is a little bit like this balloon. But what causes inflation? Well, it's the economy. So if the economy is booming, businesses can get lots and lots of customers, well, they can start putting up their prices, and that is inflation. Now, if the economy booms too much and it's going off like the clappers, you might get too much inflation and more inflation than the Reserve Bank wants. But if the economy slows, businesses can't get many customers, well, businesses either can't put up their prices or they've got to lower them to stay in business. So the air goes out of the economy, and that means that inflation could go underneath the Reserve Bank's 1% target. And that's what the Reserve Bank is actually worried about today. They're dropping the OCR to try and get the economy pumping again so that they keep on meeting their inflation target. And this is what property investors and actually anyone with a mortgage really needs to pay attention to, because there is an inverse effect between the economy and interest rates. So if you have a mortgage and you start seeing articles about the economy doing really well, that might not actually be a good thing for you, because if the economy does really, really well, that means more inflation, that could mean higher interest rates, and your mortgage could get more expensive. While if the economy is tanking, interest rates will likely go lower, so that could be a good thing for you if you have a mortgage. Now stay with me, because here's the next piece that you need to know. But if you're enjoying this video, do me a quick favor and hit the like button, because that's how I know if I should do more of these types of videos or not. And honestly, it just helps with the YouTube algorithm. Hitting subscribe too, that helps too. But just before I reveal my interest rate predictions, have you ever checked the weather forecast on your phone, seen that it's going to be raining, packed an umbrella, then walked outside and it's blue skies, it never rained all day? Well, you need to know that economists' forecasts are a bit like weather predictions. They're often wrong. I mean, if you look back at my previous interest rate predictions videos and then look at the actual interest rates, you'll see I almost never get it exactly right, and sometimes I'm like way off. And a few weeks ago, I was interviewing Sharon Zollner. Now, she leads the forecasting team and the economics team at New Zealand's largest bank. And I said to her, Sharon, how often do you look back at your forecast to see if you're right or wrong? And she said, never look back, darling. If you spend a lot of time going back and forth looking at your forecast errors, you're going to lose any confidence at doing forecasts at all. And the reason I tell you that is that this happens all the time. And the reason that economists' forecasts are often wrong is they are based on what we know right now. But then you get new data, or politicians do surprising things you didn't expect, and the economy moves in a completely different direction, and all of a sudden your forecast is wrong. And some people might hear that and say, well, doesn't that mean you should just stop putting out forecasts if you know they're going to be wrong? But the thing is that forecasts from economists aren't there to be precise. They're actually not there to be right. They're there to give you a sense of direction of where interest rates or house prices or the economy could go, so you know what to watch out for. And that's where I think it is a bit like your weather app. You know, if you go to the weather app in the morning and it says it's likely to rain, you don't cancel your plans for the day. You don't stay in bed and decide not to go to work. You walk outside, but this time you're carrying an umbrella. And it's not the forecast that protects you, it's how you prepare. And so that's why I'm saying to a lot of Kiwis, if you fix it 4.4% today, don't expect you're going to be able to get exactly 4.4% again the same time next year. So let's get into what you actually came here for and where interest rates are heading. So you're driving down a long straight road, the weather's pretty calm, the sky is blue, and then you see rain clouds forming in the distance. Well, it's not raining yet, but you know they're coming. And that's what's happening right now with interest rates. And it's also the part that most Kiwi borrowers never hear. You see, the Reserve Bank has this idea of a neutral OCR. That's where they're not trying to speed up the economy and they're not trying to slow it down either. And our best guess for that rate is around 3%, which we're currently under in New Zealand. And the reason that the Reserve Bank has taken the OCR, taken interest rates below that neutral level, is our economy is doing pretty bad. Unemployment is the highest it's been in a decade, and so the Reserve Bank has been cutting the OCR below that neutral rate to speed up the economy. But what happens when businesses start doing better and get the benefit of those lower interest rates? What happens when people see those lower rates, refix their mortgages, and people start spending more? Well, at that point, the Reserve Bank won't need to keep interest rates this low, and they'll want to make sure that the economy doesn't overheat and cause lots of inflation. So at some point, they will start increasing the OCR once the economy doesn't need that same support. Now, my best guess is that this increase of the OCR won't happen until mid-2027. But what most Kiwi borrowers don't realise is that the mortgage interest rate you pay isn't based on where the OCR is today. So don't stop the video and think, great, the OCR is not going to go up until 2027. That means that interest rates will be low for another year or so. If you fix your interest rate for 1 year, the rate you pay isn't based on today's OCR, it is underpinned by what everyone else thinks the OCR will average out at over the next year. Now, that works in your favour. If everyone, the interest rate markets, the banks, wholesale markets, think that the OCR will go down over the next year, because then you'll often get a lower interest rate before the Reserve Bank has even reached out for the cutting scissors. But if the markets think the OCR will go up at some point over the next year, then interest rates can rise even before the Reserve Bank starts hiking rates. And that is the reason why it really does matter that the big banks are predicting that the first OCR hike will happen in 2027, because if those forecasts hold, then you could start seeing interest rates going up 8 to 12 months in advance. So while I'm picking that, yes, interest rates will go down in the end of 2025, the start of 2026, perhaps the 1 year rate will kind of get to around 4.3%. But that's why I'm picking that they could start going up again as early as April 2026, but more mid-2026. Not a massive increase, but that 1 year rate could get to 4.8% by December 2026 and maybe 5% a year after that. And that's because markets and banks will start increasing their rates once they're about a year out from the OCR actually going up or potentially going up. But what would that mean for you? Let's say you've got a $500,000 mortgage and you go from a 4.3% to 5% interest rate. Well, your weekly mortgage payment could go up by $48 a week. That's about half a tank of petrol, depending on what sort of car you drive. Now, it's not the end of the world, but it's enough to squeeze a household that's already stretched. Now, I don't want to fearmonger, I don't want to scare you off, because I don't think we're going back to 7% interest rates anytime soon, even though if I said that, I'd get way more YouTube views. But you've got to recognize that interest rates went up in 2022 because inflation was too high. Now they've come down because the economy was and is doing pretty terribly. But when businesses eventually recover, interest rates will start going up again. So it's worth talking about that possibility with your mortgage advisor, because then they can help you decide whether to lock your interest rate in for 6 months or all the way up to 5 years based on what's right for you. And if you're looking for a good mortgage advisor, check out my team at Opus Mortgages. Whether you're trying to choose the right interest rate for you or getting a new loan to buy a house, they can help you out, and you can book a free meeting with them using the link down in the description. But if I think about my mate who had to sell his boat, sure, that sucked, but the reason he did it was so that he didn't have to sell any of those 6 properties, because those properties were how he planned to quit his job and stop working early. And if you want to do the same thing, you've got to watch this video where I share my 9-step blueprint to retire rich at 55. So click on this video and I'll see you there.